Welcome to Larry the Alchemist, and welcome to another edition of Metal Mythbusters. This is where I take a myth out there in the metal world and I bust it for you. I've done one of these already on Tony Iommi tuning his guitar strings down because he had his fingertips chopped off. I'll leave that linked in the description down below. But for today, I'm going to be tackling the myth that Eddie Van Halen played out of tune. I'm shocked how often I see this. I just saw somebody make a video on this. And this is incorrect. And what's happening is people are misunderstanding a couple principles of music, shall we say. But to explain this, I need to explain a few things leading up to that. You could write a doctoral thesis on this. I'm going to try to keep this really condensed and short, kind of geared towards people that have maybe never heard this before, or maybe they're not musicians, okay? When you play a note is a vibrations. Fast notes, vibrations look like this. Low notes, the vibrations are a lot bigger. In 1830-something, Johann Schiebler invented a thing called a tonometer, which could measure how many vibrations per second a note was. We call that nowadays a tuner. I have one of these on my phone. As you can see, the notes are changing up at the top because it's reading me speaking, and this measures how many cycles per second a note's frequency is. He said, hey, we got to have a universal standard. So he suggested that the A above middle C, which is this A on the guitar, should vibrate at 440 cycles per second. That was agreed upon. So now if you buy an electric keyboard wherever you live and I buy one and we both play the A above middle C, it should vibrate at 440 cycles per second. Now, what Eddie did is, now the way you get the notes on the guitar then is if this A is vibrating at 440 cycles per second, you take the A, what we call an octave lower, the next A in the cycle, and this one should vibrate at 220 cycles, half of 440. Then to get the other 12 notes, in the Western scale, you divide by 12, and you get what's called an equal tempered tuning system, where you take 2 octaves and then you divide by 12 to get the other frequencies. The tuner is calibrated to know what those frequencies are, and then that's how the tuner tells you if your note is too high or it's too low. Now, what Eddie Van Halen did, and what a lot of guitar players and musicians do, is that he didn't use a tuner. So his A, he a lot of times would tune everything was called down a half step, down 1 fret. So this note was really sounding like this note. Say, why would anybody do that? Well, makes the guitar sound a little different, makes it a little easier for the singer. Now, in the system of A440, where, and in fact, I don't know if I showed this one on my tuner, it even says 440 there, because that represents this tuning method. If this A is 440, this A, I don't know, it's something like 415 cycles per second. Well, Eddie didn't exactly tune to that exactly. He tuned maybe a little bit lower or a little bit higher. And you might say, well, doesn't that make him out of tune? Not if he keeps his ratios the same. So if Eddie's A is vibrating at 415 cycles, let's say 420, so I can divide this easily, 420, his A, the octave lower, he would tune it to, what did I say this was, 420, 210. So it's as long as you keep the ratios, and then the 12 notes in between, the divide by 12 ratio is there. I'm going to get this. Eddie used a little bit of a different method, but we'll stay with this for right now, this equal tempered system of dividing by 12 between the octaves. So just as long as Eddie's octaves were in tune, and just as long as, Michael Anthony, his bass, doesn't matter what, Eddie would just take his guitar out, tune it up. So maybe his A was at 410. As long as Michael Anthony matched him, his A down here should be whatever this would be. Let's say this is 420, this is 210, this is 105. Just as long as they're in tune with each other, vibrating the same number of times per second with each other, they are in tune. It doesn't matter that it doesn't match up with the A440 system on the tuner. Eddie was sort of playing between the notes. Now, I mentioned the dividing by 12. That's an equal tempered system of tuning. Eddie did not use the equal tempered system of tuning. He used a different system, which was called just tuning. Just tuning was used by people like Mozart and Bach before they invented the 12-tone equal tempered system. You say, what is just tuning? Well, just tuning is where you have a note. Anytime you play a note, there's actually other notes sounding above it that you don't hear. This is what's called the fundamental, and we have other notes that are called overtones. For you guitar players out there, the overtones are your harmonics. Well, even if this A is vibrating at whatever it's supposed to be, 220, let's say, to go with the tuner, our 440 system, this A does not, this E above it and the other overtones don't line up with the divide by 12 system. Okay, I'm going to give you an example. So what Eddie would do is Eddie would say, this song is in D. My main note, it's in the key of D. I'm going to tune the other strings to D. So he would have this D right here. And I'm going to play for you this chord, and I don't know if you can hear. This note I'm playing on the top is an F sharp. It's the third overtone above D. And if you listen, they clash a little bit. So what Eddie would do is, this is in equal tempered. I'm tuned to the tuner now. This should be in tune. But Eddie, to get it right in tune, there we go. Now it rings out a little bit better. I'll go back to A440, equal tempered. Let's say, hear that top note? It's not quite, that's a little bit, that doesn't sound right. So they say, all right, I'm going to tune that to match my D. There we go. Okay, so Eddie used, not only did he not tune to A440, but he kept his octave ratios 1 to 2 proper. He used a system called just tuning. So even if Eddie has a song that is in A4, he especially did this during the David Lee Roth era. He'd just take his guitar out, say this song's in D, and I'm playing this chord a lot, so I want it to fit. I don't want it to be equal tempered. Tuning to a tuner. Nah, doesn't sound right. Eddie brings it down to just tuning. Okay, so no, he's not playing out of tune. He was just using a different tuning method. This is a tuning method like Mozart and Bach used, and Handel and all those people. He was just using a different type of tuning method. He's in tune, but he's in tune to a different system. Let's say it that way. Okay. I know that's kind of confusing. Hopefully, maybe you get an understanding of it, hearing those examples that I used there. If you have any questions, let me know down below. I'll try to answer them. If you have any other suggestions for a Metal Mythbusters episode, let me know in the comments down below. But I think we can say no, Eddie Van Halen did not play out of tune. All right, thanks, and till we see you again, make sure you stay heavy, stay metal.